Have you ever lost a session, not because of bad cards, but because of your emotions? Maybe you chased a pot after a bad beat, or folded too quickly when frustration took over. Every player has been there. It's called tilt, and it destroys more bankrolls than bad math ever will. Emotional intelligence and tilt in poker, two things most players never connect, but mastering both can completely transform your game. Let's be real, tilt has cost you money. Maybe it was a bad beat that sent you into a spiral, or a winning streak that made you overconfident. Tilt isn't just frustration, it's any emotional state that pulls you away from making your best decisions. In this video, we're going to break down how emotional intelligence can keep you calm, in control, and consistently making profitable decisions, no matter what the cards, the table, or your opponents throw at you. Let's get to it. Here's why emotional intelligence and tilt in poker isn't just another mental game buzzword. It's a direct link between the way you feel and the money you win or lose. Every player faces emotional swings. The difference is that some keep making good decisions, while others spiral into mistakes. That gap? It's emotional intelligence. Emotionally intelligent players recognize the moment frustration, anger, or even overconfidence starts creeping in. They can slow down, reset, and make the next decision logically. Players with a lower level of emotional intelligence are more prone to let emotions take the wheel, and it costs them chips, pots, and sometimes their entire session. And here's the kicker. Tilt isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's a subtle shift in your thought process, calling in spots you'd normally fold, chasing a loss, or forcing action that isn't there. Without emotional intelligence, you won't even notice it's happening until your stack is gone. Emotional intelligence isn't one skill, it's a set of skills working together to keep you in control, no matter what's happening at the table. Let's break down the 5 core components that directly impact your poker game. 1. Self-awareness. This is the foundation. You can't manage what you can't recognize. Self-aware players notice the early warning signs of tilt. Maybe it's that rush of heat in your chest after a bad beat, or the impulse to play back at a loose aggressive opponent. The earlier you catch it, the easier it is to stop it. 2. Self-regulation. Knowing you're emotional isn't enough. You have to control it. This means pausing before acting, taking a few deep breaths, or even stepping away from the table. Self-regulation is the difference between losing a single pot and losing your whole buy-in. 3. Motivation. Not the I want to win kind of motivation, but the discipline to think long-term. Emotionally intelligent players don't chase quick wins or try to get even tonight. They focus on decisions that will make them profitable over months and years, not just the next hand. 4. Empathy. In poker, empathy means understanding your opponent's emotional states. Maybe you see frustration in their chip shuffling or overconfidence in the way they fire a third barrel. Reading that emotional shift lets you adjust your strategy in real time. 5. Social skills. Poker isn't played in silence. How you interact at the table, the tone you use, the image you project can affect how opponents play against you. The right table presence can make them comfortable enough to make mistakes, or nervous enough to fold when you need them to. Here's a truth that separates professionals from recreational players. If you don't understand variance, tilt will own you. Variance is simply the short-term swings in poker results, the wins and losses that happen even when you play perfectly. You can make the right decision, get your chips in as a favorite, and still lose. That doesn't mean you played badly, it means variance showed up. Players with low emotional intelligence take every bad beat personally. They see variance as unfair or worse, as proof they're playing wrong. Emotionally intelligent players understand variance as part of the math of the game. They expect it, they prepare for it, and when it happens, it doesn't shake them. And here's the part most players miss. Suckouts and one-outers are supposed to happen. If nobody ever chased a flush draw without the odds, if every player folded exactly when they should, if the fish didn't keep calling down with weak hands, there'd be no money in poker. The very mistakes that drive you crazy in the short term are the reason you can make money in the long run. This is where emotional control and math overlap. When you know the numbers, the odds, the probabilities, the long-term percentages, you stop overreacting to single hands. Instead of chasing losses or tilting off a stack, you stay grounded in the fact that poker is a game of long-term decisions, not short-term outcomes. And here's the real secret. Suckouts and one-outers are not a reason to tilt, they're a reason to celebrate. Rejoice in the bad beat. Praise the player who just hit their miracle card. Why? Because we want them chasing. We want them making those mistakes. That's where our long-term profit comes from. The chips may slide their way in that hand, but over time, they'll flow back to you and more of them. That's the beauty of variance. Without it, if everyone folded when they should, if nobody ever made those calls, poker would be over. There would be no money left to be made. Poker is a game of incomplete information. You're making decisions with limited data, pot odds, hand odds, betting patterns, and opponent tendencies, while knowing you'll never have the full picture. That pressure alone can tilt players who don't have control over their emotions. Here's the reality. Even the best calculated decisions won't always win. You might shove with the best hand and still get cracked. What matters is not the outcome of a single hand, but whether your process was correct. Emotionally intelligent players understand this distinction. They focus on controlling the decision-making process, not the results. They can look back at a hand and say, I made the right move with the information I had, and then move forward without carrying frustration into the next hand. In contrast, a tilted player lets emotions dictate choices. They stop thinking about math and ranges and start playing reactively, chasing, bluffing without reason, or folding when they shouldn't. At that point, their biggest opponent isn't across the table, it's themselves. By developing emotional intelligence, you protect your decision-making process. You stay logical under pressure, grounded in strategy, and far less likely to let one bad outcome poison the next 10. Tilt doesn't come out of nowhere, it's triggered. And if you don't know your own triggers, you'll never stop tilt before it starts. For some players, it's the classic bad beat, losing with pocket aces to a junk hand. For others, it's a long losing streak, an opponent who won't stop bullying the table, or even fatigue after hours of grinding. The point is, every player has their own tilt buttons. Emotional intelligence means identifying yours so you can defuse them before they explode. Now let's look at the consequences. Short-term, tilt feels like frustration bleeding into just a few bad hands. You chase a pot you shouldn't, you call when you know you're beat, and suddenly you've turned a small loss into a big one. Long-term, unmanaged tilt is even more dangerous. It eats away at your confidence, messes with your bankroll management, and creates a cycle where you're always playing from an emotional deficit. Some players never recover because tilt becomes their default state at the table. The truth is, recognizing your tilt triggers is step one. If you don't see them coming, you won't be able to control them. Now that we know what tilt is and why it matters, let's get into the tools you can actually use to stop it. Emotional intelligence isn't just theory, it's a skill you can practice and strengthen. 1. Develop self-awareness. Start by recognizing when tilt is happening. Pay attention to physical cues, faster heartbeat, tension in your shoulders, the urge to play back immediately after a loss. Keeping a simple journal of when and why you tilt can reveal patterns you'd otherwise miss. 2. Understand variance. Remember, bad beats don't mean you played badly. They're built into the math of poker. The more you internalize variance as part of the game, the less power it has over your emotions. 3. Master emotional control. Before each session, mentally prepare for setbacks. Expect them. That way, when they happen, you're not blindsided. Use calming techniques like deep breathing or step away from the table to reset. 4. Read and manage body language. Emotional intelligence goes both ways. Learn to spot frustration or overconfidence in your opponents, but also control your own body language. Don't give away free information by showing your emotions. 5. Use self-talk. One of the most powerful tools is talking yourself through what just happened. Instead of thinking, I can't believe I lost, shift to, I made the right play. Variance hit. Next hand. This keeps you anchored in process over outcome. 6. Practice self-regulation. Build routines that prevent tilt before it starts. Take regular breaks in long sessions. Set limits on how much money or time you're willing to risk. These structures protect you from emotional decision-making. 7. Treat every hand as practice. Even if you're not in the pot, use the time to sharpen focus, observe players, and stay calm. Emotional control is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. Some of the greatest players in poker history didn't just master the math, they mastered themselves. Their emotional intelligence is what kept them sharp under the brightest lights and the biggest pots. Take Phil Ivey, often called the Tiger Woods of poker. His composure is legendary. You'll never see him rattled after a bad beat or celebrating wildly after a big win. That calm presence makes opponents second-guess themselves and gives him control of the table dynamic. And then there's Fedor Holz, who rose to the top at a young age. Holz is open about his focus on meditation, mindset training, and emotional discipline. He doesn't just study poker theory, he studies himself. That's why he's able to play fearless, precise poker without letting emotion get in the way. These players show us that emotional intelligence isn't soft, it's a weapon. It gives you control when others lose it, and that edge is often what separates a good player from a great one. In poker, emotional intelligence is every bit as important as math and strategy. It's what allows you to stay calm after a bad beat, disciplined through losing streaks, and sharp when the pressure is highest. Tilt is inevitable, but letting tilt control you doesn't have to be. So next time someone hits their one-outer on you, don't get angry. Thank them. Because in the long run, those players are paying for your success. Their mistakes are the lifeblood of the game. But remember this too. When you go on tilt, everyone at the table wins, except you. The moment you lose emotional control, you've opened yourself up as the target. Your opponents will do to you exactly what you'd do to them if they tilted. Exploit every mistake until your stack is gone. If you want to go deeper, make sure to read the full article, Emotional Intelligence in Poker, Avoid Tilt and Make Better Decisions, available now at pokerrailbird.com. You'll find detailed strategies, examples, and insights to keep sharpening your mental edge. I have placed the link in the description below and in the pinned comments. This is Terry Wood from pokerrailbird.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the tables.